Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Brandy, and we got a buttload of Gran Turismo 7 news to talk about today. So I'm sure you guys have heard, but at the very end of last week, Gran Turismo 7 went into a 2-hour maintenance at 6 to 8 in the morning, and then just never came back online for another 24 hours. Luckily the game is back up and running again, but people are pissed about it. From the game being completely playable offline, to the microtransactions being borderline greedy, we got all that and more on another episode of Game Corner. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like what I do, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and I'll stop wasting your time. So like I said, at the very end of last week, Gran Turismo 7 was taken down for server maintenance and the upcoming 1.07 update for about 2 hours at 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning. And then it just sort of didn't come back up again for another 24 hours, and people were pissed about it. I have to admit, I was a little bit annoyed with how people were reporting on this story. By the time the game had already come up another 24 hours later, most people were already just having posted their stories about how GT7 was still offline, and they didn't even bother to start up the game and see if it was working. I mean, I get it, we're all working on a huge crunch here, we gotta get that news out before the cycle moves on to the next thing. That being said, how hard of it would have been just to like throw a little edit in there mentioning that the game was back online, and I just found it kind of annoying. That being said, it is just complete and utter bullshit that the game is unplayable when you're not online. There's more than enough single player content in this game to not require an online connection, and even if they did put a patch in at this point that allowed you to play offline, that's really just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to this giant microtransaction disaster. While microtransactions and live service games are pretty normal as far as video games go nowadays, this was never really made that apparent by Polyphany Digital or Sony, and we really just found out this was a thing at all when people started flooding over to Twitter and Reddit complaining that they couldn't play their $70 video game. And obviously for a live service game like this, it's not unusual to have server maintenance, especially when a big upcoming patch is coming through. That being said, for a $70 PlayStation exclusive that a lot of people have been waiting a very long time for, it puts a pretty nasty stain on an otherwise fantastic launch. And like I said, this whole issue kind of just ended up opening the floodgates for people to start complaining about how expensive all the cars are, and obviously calling out the expensive microtransactions in the process. Especially for longtime Gran Turismo players, a lot of the fun from these games comes from collecting all the cars and kind of building this huge car collection that you can race and customize to your liking. So this whole microtransaction thing is just made even worse when the cars switch out on a weekly basis, leaving the GT7 collectors out in the cold. And then there was even more news about the new 1.07 patch that had been coming out, pretty much saying that they were going to make the currency even harder to obtain in the game, which further alienates them from their player base on top of this conjunctioning problem that we're already having. Once again, for a premium $70 PlayStation exclusive, it's just kind of unacceptable to have microtransactions of any sort, really. Or at least if you are going to charge microtransactions and charge out the wazoo for these cars, don't make people pay $70 up front for the video game. It's kind of sitting in this weird half-baked stage between wanting to be a live service game and also wanting to be a $70 single player experience. And they're really not making anyone happy in the process. Their actions are honestly just coming off as greedy at this point, and they're going to end up tarnishing this great name that they've put together over so many years. Especially for a game series built on having popular single player arcade modes like the license test. It's not only weird that they won't let you play offline, but it also creates just less incentive to want to get in there and play any of the content, because you know you might as well just go spend the money anyway. So amid all of this drama, people are already requesting refunds en masse from Sony and review bombing the game over on Metacritic. It's actually sitting at a 1.9 on Metacritic at this point. And since this has all gone down, they have released a statement over the weekend kind of addressing their users, saying, "I wanted to explain what happened in this update. Immediately before the release of the 1.07 update, we discovered an issue where the game would not start properly in some cases on product versions for the PS4 and PS5. This was a rare issue that was not seen during tests on the development hardware or the QA sessions prior to the release, but in order to prioritize the safety of the save data of the users, we decided to interrupt the release of the 1.07 update and make a 1.08 correctional update. This is the reason for the delay. My sincere apologies for the late report to everyone. Also in this update, some event rewards have been adjusted. I wanted to also explain the reasons for it and our plans going forward. In Gran Turismo 7, I would like to have users enjoy lots of cars and races even without microtransactions. At the same time, the pricing of cars is an important element that conveys their value and rarity. so I do think it's important for them to be linked with the real world prices. I want to make Gran Turismo 7 a game in which you can enjoy a variety of cars lots of different ways, and if possible, I would like to try to avoid a situation where a player must mechanically keep replaying certain events over and over again. We will in time let you know the update plans for additional content, additional race events, and additional features that will constructively resolve this. It pains me that I can't explain in details regarding this at this moment, but we plan on continuing to revise Gran Turismo 7 so that as many players as possible can enjoy the game. We would really appreciate it if everyone could watch over the growth of Gran Turismo 7 from a somewhat longer term point of view. So that's our official response from the Gran Turismo team. They kind of lay out what the issue there with the 1.07 update was, why it took so long to get back online, and what they're going to do about microtransactions in the future. And while Kazunori does say that these decisions were made in earnest and they're actively working on things to help with the whole microtransaction issue and getting the game back into a playable state, it's pretty weird to me that they care so much about the real world value of these fake cars, especially when there's not like a marketplace or any way to trade cars between players. The only thing that ends up doing is, I guess, helping your world building, helping you feel like you're more engaged in the game because you're spending more money on the cars. I'm not sure what the logic is there. So if I was to take a wild guess, I'd say that they probably have plans to implement some sort of marketplace or like online NFT Gran Turismo sort of situation, it sounds like. From the sounds of it, they're very concerned about these cars holding some sort of value, and then they have big plans in the future to help with all these microtransactions, but they don't want to make it cheaper, which leads me to believe that they have something else up their sleeves. Obviously, this is all speculation at this point. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting to bring up the idea that they might be trying to do some sort of grubby NFT sort of situation. And honestly, I could see it. From the sounds of it, they have no plans on giving you any more cash for winning races or making cars any cheaper, so I'm not really sure what kind of a backlash they expected from this, but I don't know how they expected it to be good. Now, I should say that I actually have a little bit of a different story when it comes to Gran Turismo 7. So I've played about 10 hours of this game, give or take, and I should say that I've gone out and spent about $10 on the game so that I could buy myself a GTR Skyline when the game dropped. I did this partially because the GTR Skyline is my favorite car ever made, and partially because since it's my job to cover these games, I wanted to be able to get my feet wet in the game without really having to spend an absorbent amount of time collecting money to get cars. And in hindsight, I kind of regret doing this, honestly. Not only because I probably didn't need to spend $10 on Gran Turismo 7, but also because you unlock tons of cars in this game, and I honestly didn't really have that much trouble getting money in the game either. I haven't really played much since the game came back online, and it looks like we're still waiting for that fixed 1.0 update to come out, so I'll have to give you guys some more information when that does come out. But I personally didn't really experience too many issues with the microtransactions, and like I said, I kind of wish I hadn't even bothered in the first place. I touched on this a little bit at the very beginning of the video, but I mentioned that there's a lot of single player content there. When you can actually get into the game, there's a lot of stuff to do, and they are handing you out cars like hotcakes. So after playing for a while, I realized that I didn't really have any reason to buy any cars, and I just stopped doing that altogether. That even just lends more credence to the idea that it's just baffling that they don't have an offline mode for this game, though. Anyway, that's about all the time I got for Gran Turismo 7 drama today. Let me know what you guys think below. Have you guys picked up Gran Turismo 7 yet? Have you been really pissed with the state of the microtransactions and it being offline for 24 hours? Let me know down in the comments below. Anyway, I'm Brandon. This is Game Corner. Thanks for watching, and have a kick-ass week.